The next panel we're going to be taking you through is something that is hopefully going to inspire you to start thinking differently and start thinking about thinking. In fact, when it comes to the fourth industrial revolution, what you'll often hear when it comes to new technologies, artificial intelligence and the like, what it's going to teach us is how to think. Because in order for us to be able to adapt to change, we need to think differently. Perhaps let's start the conversation regarding business unusual. And I often say that when it comes to being able to find unconventional pathways to success, we have to start about defining success. What is success defined, and how do we start defining success? And how do we then formulate unconventional methodologies to getting to that success? But let's take it from the beginning and take us through the businesses that you do, starting off with OMNIVAT. Maybe, Deney, you can start off with that.
Okay, great. I think Randy will pick up from me as well. But OMNIVAT is a renewable energy tech startup. So what we have done is we've developed a solution that is a containerized, basically a shipping container, and out of that pops solar panels and a set of batteries, and there's a whole kind of setup that we do to create a market in rural areas that then gives power to the electricity to the community or to a health facility or whatever we connect it to, but also at the same time produces clean drinking water. And Randy and the guys have also been very smart in the way that they've developed the technology and some of the machine learning behind that to ensure that the power is well distributed to where it's needed most at different times in the day. So let me hand over to Randy too.
Hi, everyone. So as Deney already alluded to, it's basically an energy company that targets underserved community. And what we've realized in the African context is the fact that for most places, the need is not just electricity, but it's many other services and products with regards to food security and refrigeration. So what we do is we champion something called productive use of energy, where we basically try to, out of electricity and storage system, we can create products and services that many underserved African locations need, like water treatment, like refrigeration, and also empowering businesses.
I like that. Thank you very much. Maybe, Xolile, you can also expound in terms of what you guys do at CarPark.
CarPark creates applications and technologies that create a better parking experience for you. So how the business started, I was with my grandmother in one of the shopping malls just up the road, and we forgot where we parked our car. And as a guy in the family, they were like, hey, please just look for the car and give us a call as soon as you find it. So it was a frustrating process. And I just asked myself, why doesn't someone just build an app that's going to help us find our vehicles? So as a coder myself, I got home and I started coding the app. It was initially supposed to be a Valentine's gift for my grandmother. Wasn't dating at that time. So, and as soon as I rolled out a beta version for the app, people just started using it. And I was like, okay, so it means we might be sitting on something here. And then we rolled out the app for the general public. And within 3 days, because we rolled out on a Wednesday, and on a Saturday morning, I got a call from a friend of mine, like, hey, bruh, your app is #1 on Google Play. So I was like, sweet. And in essence, that's exactly what actually drove me into creating CarPark as a business. I mean, from there, because we had to, if it's a business, it has to be monetized. So we had to formulate a monetization strategy around that. So we said, cool, we are already a location-based application. So let's formulate an advertising algorithm that's going to display ads based on where the user parks their vehicle. So we sat down and pivoted into that. And something that actually stood out from that process was that you don't have a business until someone wants to pay for what you are creating. I knew very well that you guys are not going to pay for an app to just help you find your car. So we had to find something. We had to create value for someone that's worth paying for before we could actually say, we have a business, this is something that we can build on, something we can scale on. And not so long ago, we had launched our new AI, which actually does the direct opposite of helping you find your car. So now we know that you guys struggle with finding your vehicles, so let's actually build something to help you find parking. So just imagine this, before you even leave your house, you know exactly where you're going to park. You're going to the airport, you're going to the shopping mall, you know exactly where you're going to park, you know the kind of parking spaces that you should avoid. So the summary of our business is that we create a better parking experience.
Excellent, actually. Yeah, you can definitely give him a round of applause. And Mpho, let's talk a little bit about Mokgehle.
Mokgehle Mohlala, attorneys and conveyancers. We are a black law firm. We are a black female law firm. We mostly deal with litigation. We also do conveyancing. So if you want to buy a property and you want us to transfer it for you, we can assist you. With litigation, we do family law, evictions, civil matters, if you want to sue someone or anything. So yeah, that's basically what we do at Mokgehle Mohlala Attorneys and Conveyancers.
It is beautiful because it allows us to segue perhaps around these unconventional pathways to success. Now, a lot of times when it comes to entrepreneurship itself, now entrepreneurship has always been touted as two things. An entrepreneur is very different from a business manager because an entrepreneur creates something out of nothing. So entrepreneurs are known as creators. B, entrepreneurs are supposed to be problem solvers. But how do you know which problem to solve? Because there's so many problems that we're confronted with, and not a lot of us know which problems are actually problems to solve. Maybe let's start with you today.
Yeah, I think, Xolile's point is so great in terms of your own life experience, can really point you in the direction of critical problems that need to be solved. Sometimes they're massive problems, sometimes they're smallish problems, sometimes it's, but fundamentally, you're probably never the only person experiencing a certain problem. And then another thing that I think is important for this group is that my experience is that through working in various organizations, you get a really good sense of what is out there and what is missing. So your kind of work experience can really help you to identify not only what's missing in a company, and there's actually something called an organizational entrepreneur, where you start new things within a business that already exists, and that is a really great springboard for you to later on start something yourself. But also through that experience, you get a really good sense of actually, our company keeps doing things in this and this and this way, but there's still this gap, or people are still not responding to this, or this is still an issue. Sometimes you then, don't get your way in the organization and the job that you're in, and that's then a kind of an opportunity for you to step out and try to solve that problem yourself.
Yeah, and also just a reminder for all of us that if you do have a question for our panelists, please do make use of Slido. We'll make sure that those questions are facilitated as well. So as many questions as you can, especially when it comes to entrepreneurs and how they manage to do it and overcome certain difficulties. I think it will really help us with that. Randy, just to build up from what was said from Deney regarding, identifying problems from your experience. I've identified the problem now because of the experience that I have. How do I then get into the phase of testing that my problem or the solution that I've got to the problem is a solution that everybody wants?
Pardon me. So interestingly, with regards to that, there's a saying, you should fall in love with the problem, not the solution. So to elaborate on that, what basically that means is that if you think maybe slightly 50, 60 years ago, there was a time where for lots of Africans, the world was very different for the opportunities that many of us currently have. But there were some people that had enough foresight to dedicate their time, their resources, and their skill set to try to find ways that will be equally fair for everyone basically in the future. So with that context, basically it's not the technology itself that is the solution, but it's almost like the time you're willing to spend, and also you must fail really, really quickly, and you don't always have to spend money failing. So for that, what I mean is to find out, just like Holly mentioned, that you need to get a product that people are willing to pay for, and then that basically can translate into having a business or having an impactful venture. And to young people, I think that basically translates to there are lots of solutions in digital tech and even in hardware right now where you can use systems in AI, virtual reality to find ways to leapfrog or to come with products or services that people are willing to pay for. But someone mentioned a while ago that 90% of startup fails. Just find a way to fail very quickly, but you will have to be a really unlucky person to have 0 out of your 10 ideas work. So,
yeah, I mean, when you're saying that a lot of the you know, that in itself requires us to get access to the people that are willing to invest in us and willing to take a chance on our prototype, willing to take a chance on our idea, and knocking in as many doors as possible. Xolile, you'll often find that people or young people would say, I may have the idea or I may have identified the problem, I've got the solution for the problem, but the doors that I keep knocking on keep closing. And eventually, and I want us to be very real, because we've got young people, can we be real for a second? When you look for a job and when you're developing an idea, it is expensive. A lot of young people don't even have the capital to A, feed themselves and their families, never mind start an idea, and never mind develop a prototype. So in a practical way, how do we find the space of A, capital raising, prototype developing, if whatever it is that you're developing is something that is tangible, it's not a service, whilst being able to take care of yourself? I want us to be real to the context of the lived experience of a child or a young person in South Africa, where a lot of the time what they're being confronted with is 350 Rand a month. How do you make 350 Rand a month go a long way?
I always say that your skills as a young person, that's your initial seed capital. And we should always, and I mean always, build for your customers. We always make the mistake of, I want to build for investors. I want someone to pump money into this business. Your money is where your customers are. The problem that you are solving, that's where the money is. And I understand that it's very difficult to make the 350 stretch. And what has helped me a lot was I've taught myself to make use of what's there in order to create what's not there. And the turnaround time when you are pitching for investors, that's a very, very, very long time. I mean, in our instance, when we pivoted CarPark AI, we were business facing. And we went directly to shopping malls and said, this is a solution that we are selling for you to create a better parking experience for your shoppers. And we had this back and forth with one of the clients, and it was taking about 2 months, if I'm not mistaken. As you can imagine, within that 2 months, the money is running out. The money is not standing still. You are still spending money while you are trying to make money. And so as I've said earlier on, your skills are the initial seed capital. Eventually, in the long run, you will need a cash injection, but your creativity will actually allow you to work with what's there. We make this huge mistake when you think about entrepreneurship. We always think of big, fancy offices. We always think of Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
Not knowing that those companies that we see in Silicon Valley, they all started in a garage somewhere. So I think we just need that mindset that you start small and then you just build from there. You use what you have to get what you don't have. And once you put your thinking hat on, you learn that every problem that you face, there is a solution. It can be really messy, but a solution is always there.
I like that. Every problem that we face is definitely a solution, no matter how messy. How do we, Mpho, when it comes to traditional forms, because I mean, here we are in a tech expo, really, and we're in a tech-related convention, so as it were. When it comes to traditional forms of business in the country, you'd often find that the trajectories towards how artificial intelligence is going to really challenge the way that we do business and the traditional existences of certain businesses, right? So, for example, I had a conversation about it was about a month ago, from even law firms saying we now have to think about how do we adapt law and do law and practice law, because sometimes you put in input in the data or artificial or the AI is able to give you something that would have taken, for example, a paralegal a couple of weeks to do. So the introduction of artificial intelligence, the introduction of new technologies is starting to challenge the way that we do business traditionally in the South African framework, but also globally. How then do businesses compete? And when do we compete and when do we collaborate with the emerging technologies?
When I started my law firm, I remember the first day when I opened my law firm, I advertised on all social media pages. And I did not know that I would get clients. I just advertised. And on that very first day, I remember I got 10 clients.
Wow. Sure.
Very first
just
day.
Using social media.
Just by using social media.
Yeah.
And 3 months later, I got a call from a TV channel to say, can you please be our legal advisor? And from there, the business has been going so well. And I get calls now from attorneys to say, how are you doing it? I've started my law firm and I do advertise on social media, but I've never gotten even a single client in a year. So that's where we get together, and I would also advise my learned colleagues to say, can we now use social media a lot, because it does help the business grow. It's been 3 years now running a firm. I also have now a second office in Millen, Maine, through social media. So I think, as you said, technology does help, because if you are out there and advertising your business, and that's where you'll be able to actually get clients and also connect with your colleagues and other people who are doing a totally different business from what you are doing.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times as well that we somehow look at what and how do we define success. How do you see us pivoting our businesses or growing our businesses so that it's not just business for survival, which is unfortunately the story of many a business in the South African context, is that we open a business because we're trying to survive. How do we move and progress from survival to success, from success to significance? Let me start off with you.
I think patience is key, to be honest. I remember, I had started a consulting firm as well, in addition to, us collaborating on OMNIVAT. And honestly, I had heard the stat, that it takes 3 years for a business to actually pick up and to turn around. And, you always kind of think like, oh, maybe I'll be faster, I can honestly say it took 3 years. It took 3 years for me as well, in a business that I started as well. And to kind of just have that ability to, and for 3 years it really was just survival, But I think there's a key principle that I really like to live by, and that is faithfulness. When you're faithful with little, you will be given more to manage, And I think it's critical to ensure that even though you're in this space where you're really just trying to survive, and maybe you're just kind of working on bits and pieces and small clients and small things and things like that, you really have to apply yourself and work with excellence and work with faithfulness and make sure that you're still pursuing a bigger vision and not get caught up in that smaller kind of, you can really get caught up in the day-to-day, and you have to keep reminding yourself who you are and where you're trying to go. I do think obviously there's a point at which maybe you call it, but I do think that 3-year patience, you have to have this perspective of I'm playing a long game. Yeah. I'm playing a long game and I'm pursuing something that's bigger than myself. So yeah, I'm not sure if that really answers the question, but I know that really kind of, it's that, the ability to hang in there is really what's going to get you out of that survival mode and into a space of success and expansiveness. Yeah,
I like real conversations, because then we start finding practical ways of being able to be success or to have those success stories. And when it doesn't work, pivot. And how many of us actually choose to pivot?
Yeah, sure. So we struggled to pivot, to launch the app in the first place.
Yeah.
And that's mainly because at that time, there was no money to hire anyone to come and work on the app. And I sort of had to take a leap of faith and start coding the app myself. That was the very first version. So it ended up taking a good 2 years to move from idea to the app stores. So as to how exactly did we make it out of that, I learned that in order for me to solve this kind of problem, I'll have to commit way more than just my time. I need to apply my skills as well. And fortunately at that time, I was still young, age was still on my side, and it brought me...
Looks as though age is still on your side. Age is still on your side, clearly.
Yeah, and it bought me the time to further conduct my market research and to figure out how exactly are we going to monetize this app, because that's the first reason why we were struggling, because we did not have a proper monetization strategy. Ironically, after we figured out how to monetize the app, the first people who funded us were not even from the country. Imagine that.
Sure. And it's beautiful when you say things like, I've had to apply myself and apply my skill, Randy, because it speaks significantly to how, if we're going to be serious about being successful, we have to be serious about how much we're going to have to put in the work to get success. How many of us give up after the second try?
Yeah, I've had like so many close calls, but I think from an early age, I understood that the difference between succeeding and failing is usually giving up. If you give up, it's guaranteed that you failed. Yeah.
Before you answer that one as well, Randy, about how fast do we give up, maybe let me just make an announcement. All those who are at the back, if you could just quieten down. I know that some of you are taking a bathroom break, some of you are making your way. The noise is feeding through into the auditorium, and it is disturbing the way that the session is running. So may I ask that also those who are hostesses at the back, if you do see people, if it's a little bit loud, just please encourage them to quieten down so that we can have a little bit more ears to this side. So hostesses and those that are at the back, please just take down the level of noise so that we can also hear our panelists during this conversation as well. Randy, maybe you can also expound on that.
Okay, so to elaborate more on his statement and to answer the question, biggest challenges has been financial challenges, as probably most people in the room, and also failures. So interestingly, I've also worked in Saudi Arabia, but that was after I struggled to get out of university after failing a single course 3 times. So you're literally repeating the same course. So what do you do to get out of it? No man is an island, and in the African context, it takes a village to raise a child. So what you should probably avoid in life is to not ask for help, even if you do have a startup. And what obviously I did to get out of that is ask for other people to basically give me a hand. But eventually, after getting out of varsity, for whatever reason, the challenge was not the course per se, it was just exposures to certain opportunities and exposures to basically uplift your knowledge base. So I think I've had a much better career than most engineers that even left after my time, because I've almost worked in all 4 continents, in 12, 13 countries. But while that was basically the career highlights, I think the other lesson learned was that you can't do everything on your own. So OMNIVAT basically was a collective of like-minded people of a decent intellectual caliber, and the thought of it was basically, let's build something, but let's help each other fail quickly. So if I say let's do A, B, C, then I will quickly be checked by the other 3 people saying this is not it, and vice versa. So that's basically a tool to basically get through challenges. At least in the business senses, it's much better to have a cooperative than always just hear your own voice.
Yeah. Somehow, I believe that at least 10 or so business deals need to come up from this, right? But it doesn't happen unless there's collaboration, right? So we've got young people that are sitting in this room. They've got businesses, or they're thinking about starting a business, right? Mpho, how then do they start finding the right people to collaborate with so that their businesses can escalate and accelerate and be successful? Because just because you and I are friends does not mean we need to be in business together. We can be besties, but it doesn't mean we need to be in business. How do I find the right person to collaborate with?
With me, I have a business partner. She's my best friend from varsity. So we had a dream from...
You got a bestie and a business partner.
Yeah, I do have a business partner. She's the conveyancer at the office. Mabuti Mohlala, can you stand up for everyone to see you?
Can everybody say hi, bestie?
I started my law firm with my best friend, but you can make friends. Like you said earlier on, go greet someone, speak to someone. You might find that that person is your business partner, your future business partner. So with me, I'm a very bubbly person, so I make friends everywhere I go. So I don't think it will be a problem for me to be a business partner with anyone else except my business partner, Mabuse, right now. So make friends, attend functions. Today we have a career exhibition. Make friends with a lot of people that are here. Maybe you might find that one of them will be your business partner.
Yeah, but how do we make it practical? And where do we start to formalize it? Maybe let me start with you, Deney.
So, I mean, I think what happened in OMNIVAT's case is that there are, 5 of us involved in OMNIVAT, right? And we've actually all known each other since university as well. I mean, Randy and I have been friends for 17 years.
Oh, wow.
Maybe an idea of how old we are. But, and it's not to say that we've always dreamt of starting a business together, but I think what's critical is that there's an alignment of vision, there's an alignment of values, and there's a fundamental level of trust. So even as Mpho was saying, in terms of meeting people and talking to people, you can very quickly connect around purpose. You can very quickly connect around vision and around even the kind of values in terms of what you want to see in the world, right? And the kind of person you want to be and the kind of lives that you hope other people can also have. And from that, build a good foundation of trust. I think it's not a good idea to just, collaborate or get into business with just anyone. And I say that even for entrepreneurs and young people and small businesses, even wanting to connect with big companies and big corporates, it's really important to ensure that, you're going to be respected as well throughout that engagement, and not just kind of collaborate because they've got the money, so I must just give it all away. No, like there is a little bit of a guarding of your dream and a guarding of the things that you want to do. I hope that's kind of practical enough.
Absolutely. And as we wrap up, maybe you can give entrepreneurs advice, especially those who've had to bootstrap and go at it on their own so that the business does keep afloat. What advice can you give to a young person or an entrepreneur right now who's on that verge of wanting to give up? And they just happen to be here today to listen to this conversation, and they're really rethinking where to from here.
A lesson that keeps on coming back to me is that innovation is not a straight line. Like all sorts of things, and all sorts of things in life as well, nothing is ever a straight line. And imagine if you had given up today only to find out that the break you are looking for was going to come through tomorrow. Would you actually be able to live with yourself after doing that? So whenever it gets tough, I always tell myself that very few things in this life are as they seem on paper. There are so many gray areas. We just need to remind ourselves, why did we start what we're doing? Sometimes that's the only thing that actually keeps you going. Just remember, why are you doing what you do?
Can I just say one thing, just building on what Xolile was also saying? One of the lessons that I've learned through my career and through particularly my entrepreneurial journey is that hope is a much more generative space than disappointment and despair. Yeah. So if you can, like he was saying, remember your why and hold on to hope and actively guard your sense of hope, that is a very important space, because when you're hopeful, you're actually more orientated towards solutions, you're actually more creative, you're actually more willing to find a way to push through. Whereas when you're disappointed, yes, disappointments do come and we do kind of, they do catch us, but kind of work through that disappointment as quickly as you can, because that is a space where you're you start to see closed doors instead of potential open doors or cracks in the wall, So I just want to encourage people to say that, hope is a very generative space. And you're much more energetic when you're hopeful as well. And you're much more willing to keep trying, to keep pursuing, thinking of new ideas, etc. So, yeah, a bit, philosophical, but also very real.
No, we can't be in business without hope.
No.
Because every single day is hope and faith. Mokgehle, Randy, Deney, please give them a round of applause. Weren't they fantastic?